Hey, my name is Chris Lambert, co-host of Watching the Throne, a lyrical analysis of Kanye West. This video is the condensed version of the debunking of the theory that was all over Twitter that Drake and Kim Kardashian slept together, and Drake was hinting at it throughout Scorpion. It's the second time this theory's come up. The first was Joe Budden's podcast back in June, and I'd done a video debunking Joe Budden's points. I think this theory was better presented than what Joe did, but also very, very flawed and easy to show why it's kind of insane. I did a 44-minute video that went point by point through this whole thing, showing in detail why it didn't work, but I wanted to do a shorter version that just kind of overviewed the three key things that shows that this is nonsense. Before getting into that, I just wanted to share that we have some shirts available for Kanye fans. There's a Runaway shirt and a Hold My Liquor shirt with a multitude of colors available for Runaway, a white version of Hold My Liquor. You can go to watchingthethrone.com and get one of those if you want to support us. We get all of the proceeds, and it's much appreciated. We'll have some more shirts coming out soon, actually, so I'm excited about that. But getting back to the theory and just the 3 points that kind of debunk this. The first is one of the foundations of the theory that Tyler shared was I already knew the disses were aimed at Kanye, but his friend who made him aware of this theory claimed every girl line was about Kim, which is just an absurd starting point for the theory. Like that every line that references a girl on Scorpion is about Kim Kardashian. Blows my mind. I think you could maybe make that argument if Drake had never really focused on his interactions with women on his other albums, and this was the first time he had really done it throughout the album. At that point, you could ask, why is he doing that? But that's just not the case. In the full video, I showed how on the first 8 out of 10 tracks, there are lines that are about Kim, in the same way that lines on here are about Kim. And by that, it's just Drake saying, like, we had something special and then you left me. Or, your girl liked me and I fucked her for a week and then let her be. Like, shit like that. It's just something that rappers typically do and something that Drake very often does. You can go all the way back to his mixtapes, all of his albums, and he has many songs where he talks about the generic you that's a girl that he liked and they didn't work out, that left him heartbroken, or a girl that he could hook up with, or a girl that he's hooking up with but she's dating somebody else. It's just typical like hip-hop rap talk in general, but very typical for Drake. So it's hard to imagine that anything that he's saying on Scorpion wouldn't just be the general stuff that he said on every other album. So that theory just from the get-go doesn't make any sense and would be a stretch to even entertain. So that debunks, I think, most of the lines, but the second reason why we shouldn't take a lot of Tyler's points seriously here is he doesn't interpret lines very well or accurately at all. And you get that from just right here. He says, your wifey felt too generic at first, and I figured Drake was referring to any man that leaves his girl long enough for good. So that was his interpretation of your wifey, was that it was any man that leaves his girl long enough or for good. Let's look at what the context was for Drake saying your wifey. Drizzy about to drop. The game is in disarray. I'd tell you hear me out, but we both know end of the day, Your sister is press and play. Your trainer is press and play. Your wifey, your wifey, your wifey. There's nothing in there that's about a guy leaving his wife alone for too long and Drake coming in and taking her or anything like that. There's nothing about that that could be interpreted as I'm fucking your wife. It's Drake saying that his album's about to come out and that the rap game is in disarray. And he's saying, I tell you, hear me out, but we both know end of day, which is just talking to some other figure, a male figure in this case, that's in the game, possibly Kanye, possibly just any other of the generic like rappers that Drake tells I'm better than you in many of his albums. But I tell you, hear me out, but we both know end of day, your sister's press and play, your trainer, your wifey. He's just saying that I make music that everyone in your life is going to listen to, including your wife. So even if you and I are beefing, even if you think you're better than me, that's not true because your girl's listening to my music. Your sister is listening to my music, which helps Drake like cement his place in the game, right? He talks on the intro to Scorpion about the crown being broken and who's going to take the pieces of it, and more of this position of he's at the top. And it seems that this is furthering this idea that he's at the head of the rap game now, that the whole game is in disarray. They don't know who's at the top. Drake is making his claim. And part of that claim is your wife listens to my music. So Tyler was very, very off in interpreting what your wifey was referring to there. And if you go through the rest of the lines that he tries to interpret, they're all very far off of what the contextual meaning would be, and more of just a superficial, tangential reading that you can kind of maybe make an argument for if you're ignoring any of the other context or evidence. Yeah. And if you want to hear that in depth, you can watch the 44-minute video where I go through every single point he made and show why it didn't make sense given the context of the song. But how he frames it in this little narrow perspective sounds great, and you could buy into it. It just doesn't last if you look into it. And this is the third point, speaking of it doesn't last if you look into it. I started listening to Scorpion and put it on shuffle. In My Feelings is the first song that comes up. Ever wonder who Kiki is exactly? Thought to myself, Kiki is pretty damn close to Kim. Quick Twitter search and I find these. Kim letting everybody know her nickname's Kiki back in 2012. And then recently, Chloe saying, hey, Keeks, because that's still Kim's nickname. And we know that she had a lipstick called Kiki is a Pinky Nude. So there is this connection between Kim and the nickname Kiki. So could In My Feelings be about Kim Kardashian? Like, is that the big smoking gun theory? If you did even a second of research into this, then you would know, no, it's not about Kim. Upon its release, several outlets reported that the song was about Kashia Shante, Drake's first girlfriend and childhood friend. However, it was confirmed that it was actually Kiana Barber, a resident of Oakland, California. Both of those names, Kashia and Kiana, are both fitting of somebody nicknamed Kiki, right? You get the key sound in pronouncing their names. And they both make more sense than Kim. Like, Drake has had relationships with both women, and he has emotions and a history and feelings for both women. So the song being about one of them, especially Kiana, would make a lot of sense. So even if you still want to buy into, oh, maybe it was about her, but it's also about Kim, you're starting to stretch it out a bit more. And maybe Drake did that on purpose. making this song about this other girl, or maybe he just had the song in general and wasn't even thinking about Kim Kardashian when making it. Suddenly, what seemed very sure when Tyler presented it is now having a lot of doubt brought about it. It's not quite the smoking gun that he made it seem, when it actually could have absolutely 100% nothing to do with Kim because it's about somebody else entirely. It's not like the songs about Kiki and he's saying it's about a woman named Sarah. And you're just like, how is a Sarah nicknamed Kiki? That would be a little bit more skeptical, but given what we know, no. It then becomes a stretch to think it's Kim. So those are the three big reasons that the initial premise surrounding the theory that every reference of a woman is about Kim is such a stretch and beyond logic that it makes no sense. That Tyler's interpretation of lyrics is a little bit lacking. So every kind of interpretation that he puts forth is flawed when you look into it, and that Kiki doesn't refer to Kim Kardashian at all. So whatever other points that might be arguable in Tyler's favor here and in favor of the theory, the main core that the theory relies on just doesn't work at all, which I think brings the whole house of cards tumbling down. So that covers that. If you have any other topics you would like me to make videos on and address, leave it in the comment section and I'll get to it. Thanks for watching. Cheers.